Hello there. Today I'm delighted to be looking at what is a highly revered Australian wine. This is Rockford's Basket Press Shiraz from 2016. It's a wine from the Barossa, and this is arguably a benchmark for the traditional style of old Barossa Shiraz. Rockford are indeed an iconic winery, and the Basket Press Shiraz is their flagship wine. The winery was founded in the 1980s by Robert O'Callaghan, sometimes referred to as Rocky. And in the 1960s, O'Callaghan trained with Seppelts. He worked at their winery in Rutherglen in northwest Victoria. And amongst other people he worked with, there was somebody called Colin Priest, who is something of a legendary figure in the establishment of modern Australian winemaking. In 1971, Robert O'Callaghan came to Tanunda in the Barossa Valley. He bought 2 hectares of land and set about planting vines. As well as that, he built a winery. He built it in a style that echoed that of an 1850s stone cottage that was already on the property. And his inaugural vintage here was 1984. It was very much Robert O'Callaghan's intention to preserve the traditional styles of the wonderful old Barossa wines that he knew. Winemaking was taken over here by somebody called Ben Radford, who came having worked in South Africa previously, in 2006, and in 2012 he then took over as MD as well. But Rocky O'Callaghan stayed involved in the winery. Now, multiple fruit sources are used in the making of basket press. So they talk about vineyards, not only their own home vineyard in Tanunda around the winery, but also in Kalimna, in Ebenezer, in Mopper Springs, in the Eden Valley, and also the central Barossa Valley. So this gives them wines to work with that come from a wide variety of different soil types and microclimates. And really strong bonds have been built up over the years with growers. The vines in the vineyards they work with tend to be old bush vines, unirrigated, ungrafted, because this part of South Australia has no phylloxera. So the vines are planted on their own roots, and the ages of these vines vary between about 60 and 140 years. So these are really old, low-yielding vines giving fantastically concentrated fruit from the conditions in the Barossa that provide ripe fruit anyway. Fruit for this was hand-picked. It goes through a very old-fashioned crusher destemmer. This 19th century mechanical crusher destemmer, a Bagshaw crusher. The crushed fruit then goes into small open top slate line fermenters where it's possible to push the cap of skins back down into the fermenting juice as that goes on. Pressing, as the label advertises, is done using a basket press, and the idea is that basket presses give quite soft extraction, so there's a smooth richness to the style of wines that have been pressed in an old basket press. The wine then ages, but in seasoned oak, in 300 litre American and French oak hogsheads that have previously held other wines. And this aging process goes on for perhaps 18 months, but more likely up to 2 years. And that's allowing a gentle ingress of oxygen to smooth the tannins, to fix the colours and the perfumes, and to give the wine stability. And this is a wine that the back label suggests can be aged for up to 10 years, and I'm fortunate enough to be trying it now at the age of about 9 years. So the first thing to look at is, considering the wine's age, it has a lovely depth of colour. It is virtually opaque, although the rim is starting to show a less intense ruby colour. And it's a more red coloured, there isn't really much of a purple hue to the wine. The wine has 13.9% alcohol according to its label, and swirling it, it's clinging to the glass. However, it seems a little reticent to form tears. Oh yes, there are tears starting to show on the sides of the glass there. So let's see what we make of the aromas, shall we? Initially, those aromas are developed and warm, and then just very gently rising out of the top of that, there's a minty note, very vivid minty note, and then it morphs into something more sort of eucalypt-like. So you've got sort of chocolatey, earthy notes, developed notes, slight hints of leatheriness. It's not overpoweringly so, there's still some freshness in the fruit. There are rich fruitcake notes, and yet there are still lovely, vibrant plum notes as well. There, the eucalypt and the mint are coming back. The mintiness almost hints towards a sort of a mint chocolate or something. There's a richness there that's invoking. There's possibly even a little bit of pepperiness at the back there. There's so much going on that nose. And the aromas are vibrant and lively. They don't seem particularly tired. They still have a vibrancy. So let's have a taste. On the palate, there's a lovely smoothness and there's a density. And I'm starting to get a bit of grip. I'm starting to see a little bit of cedary note, earthy note, but yet through the middle of that is coming a slightly more eucalypt note, perhaps hints of mint, but it's more on the eucalypt side of the spectrum there. And that's giving a freshness that's enlivening the whole palate. The alcohol doesn't seem particularly heavy. There are rich licoricey hints at the back of my tongue, but on the front of the tongue there's a much more sort of lively red fruit. I sort of said red plum because there's a lovely freshness, but there's a juicy nature, not quite cherry, more heading towards sort of raspberry or loganberry or that sort of thing. There is quite a fine grainy structure that's across the back palate there. This is quite a full-bodied wine, but it's not a blockbuster. It's managing to retain beautiful structure, lovely freshness, some really elegant fruit top notes over the top of all that. The licoricey intensity is beautifully married with the smooth texture of the wine, and the acidity in combination with those eucalypt notes is giving a lift to the finish. It's giving it some really lovely persistence. This is a wine I would argue is fully mature now, but there's no sign that it's in any way likely to decline in the near future. I think you're probably very happy to keep that for 4 or 5 years, possibly longer. At the same time, I'm unsure exactly what you'd gain from that, because it's beautiful now. I took a look at the Wine Searcher aggregated critic score for this, and this vintage scores 94 out of 100. I think that's a thoroughly well-earned score. This is a wine that manages to combine intensity and depth with elegance and some lovely perfume. It's a wine that's aged beautifully and clearly has a fair amount of life still ahead of it. There's still on the back of my tongue this lovely combination of fresh red fruit with minty touches, eucalypt and hints of chocolate. The wine's a real delight, and I feel privileged to have tasted it. Thank you so much for joining me. I will leave a link in the notes below to the Wine Searcher webpage for this vintage of this wine, so you can find out if it's available near you, what other vintages might be available, the prices in your market. You can also follow links there to find out more about the producer, the grape variety, the region, the way the wine is made. There's plenty of additional information there, including links to critics' notes and any reviews left by other users. There's also price history and a tab on that page where you can compare different vintages of this wine. If you've enjoyed the video, it'd be fantastic if you could give us a like down below. It'd be amazing. If you have any friends you think might like to watch the video, do please feel free to pass it on to them. We'd really appreciate your endorsement in that way. If you have any comments, please pop those in the comments box below. Your feedback really is of interest to us. We'd love to know what you think about the wines, the tastings, or anything else that we're doing in this regard. So thank you once again for joining us, and I do hope you'll manage to make some time and come and join us for another video tasting in the very near future. Until then, bye for now.